Hello, my name is Andy Lazur. I'm a water quality specialist with the University of Maryland Extension, and I'm going to talk to you today about taking care of your septic system. So when we look at a traditional or conventional septic system, it's basically a very simple device and works off of physics, basically gravity, and where you have your wastewater coming in to the system from your home, it goes into your septic tank, and then from there we'll go into what's called a distribution box, and that distribution box helps to channel the wastewater to the various number of trenches that the drain field has. And in that drain field, the purpose there is to maximize contact of the wastewater with the soil, and enabling that wastewater to percolate or infiltrate into the soil for absorption and purification. Ultimately, though, that treated wastewater will enter the groundwater. So it's very important to maintain your system, be sure that it's operating properly, not only to maximize treatment, but then to minimize impact on groundwater and potentially creating a health hazard. Soil is a very important component of a septic system. In fact, your septic system is designed based on not only the size of your home or number of rooms or occupants, but also and primarily because of the soil type. Because the bulk of the treatment is happening in the soil, it's very important to have that soil properly identified. And in the design, whether it's done by your county health department or an engineer, they are going to do a comprehensive evaluation of the soil on your site to determine things such as its structure, texture, and then also to test it to determine how much water it will percolate and at what rate, quote, a perk test. But soil is very important. It has a tremendous amount of natural bacteria in the soil, and that bacteria helps to break down the organics, outcompete, and actually kill off the pathogenic bacteria in wastewater. And what's important is to have a certain amount of soil from the bottom of the drain field to whether it's the water table or some sort of restrictive layer. Many states require about 4 feet of soil or vertical separation to affect adequate. The complexity of your system will increase as your vertical separation decreases. So if you don't have adequate soil separation, what may have to happen is that you may have to have, say, an above ground system like a sand mound. Here's a diagram of a standardized septic tank that just shows you, again, this is a very simple device, works off of gravity. Wastewater comes into the house. The solids will settle in this first compartment here. The fats, oils, and greases will float up to. This particular tank has 2 compartments with a opening in the middle, allowing wastewater to travel to the second compartment. So again, a septic tank is designed for storage and settling of solids. Once that wastewater goes into the second chamber, you might get a little bit more settling of solids, and then that water will then go out to your drain field. Some septic tanks are equipped with a filter to reduce the amount of fine organic material going out to your drain field. Your drain field is working off of soil, and so it can get clogged over time, particularly if excessive organic suspended solids are leaving the tank. So sometimes a filter will be added, but like any filter, it needs to be cleaned periodically. And that would probably require at least once a year service provider coming out and cleaning your filter. So again, a very simple system designed to trap solids and to add storage volume, typically 2 to 3 days of water use. Then you have different types of drain fields. Again, this is where the bulk of the treatment happens. It could be a conventional trench. It could be a newer system that's using these chambers. There's drip dispersal if you have an advanced treatment system, which is enhancing the purification of the water and the clarity of the water. It could be pumped up into a drip dispersal system, for example, that's in the upper, say, 12 inches of the soil, whereas most of these other systems, conventional gravel trenches, chambers, typically are several feet below the ground surface. Just depends on, again, on the soil quality on your particular site. This is just showing the different types of processes that are going on in the soil. So much of the nitrogen coming in raw wastewater is in the ammonia form. Then you have certain bacteria that use oxygen that will convert that ammonia to nitrite and then to nitrate. And again, this all works off of oxygen. So your drain field essentially needs to breathe. You can't build on top of it. You don't want to drive over it because you'll compact that soil, and that oxygen will not be able to enter the various soil pores for that bacteria to break that down. And then as you go down deeper into the soil, where there's very little or no oxygen, there's other types of bacteria called denitrifiers that will convert that nitrate to nitrogen gas, and our atmosphere is, the bulk of our atmosphere is made up of nitrogen. So it's a natural nitrogen cycle, if you will, if everything is working properly. It's important to note that your septic tank doesn't remove much nitrogen, less than 5%. And your drain field, the typical drain field will remove 20 to 40% of nitrogen. So that means that some of the nitrogen is going to groundwater, probably in the form of nitrate. And that's why advanced treatment units, or BAT, best available technology as it's known in Maryland, those systems, those advanced treatment systems can remove 50 to close to 80% of nitrogen. And that's why many states and areas are recommending the use of those, and in some cases mandating the use of an advanced treatment system. So when we think about your septic system, it might be a good idea to think about it as the most expensive appliance in your home. When you consider the types of appliances that you have in your home, certainly we're familiar with our washer and dryer and our refrigerator, but our HVAC, our heating and air conditioning system, is more expensive than our kitchen appliances. But your septic system may even be more expensive, and in most cases is more expensive than your HVAC system. So again, protecting it, maintaining your septic system just makes good economic sense. Because again, if you have to replace your septic system, it can cost, many thousands of dollars. So it only makes sense to maintain it. And then the other thing about a septic system, as I mentioned, it is treating wastewater, and wastewater can be a contaminant and is certainly a health hazard for yourself, your family, neighbors, pets, things like that. So it's important to maintain your system so that you don't have any clogging drain fields where water ponds up to the surface, or worse, even backs up into your home. So maintaining it will help to prolong the life of your drain field. So one of the key things, maintenance practices that you can do, is to pump your tank periodically. General rule of thumb is every 3 to 5 years, but that really depends on the number of people that you have in your house and also the size of the septic tank. So the smaller the tank and the more people you have, the greater the frequency. So if you have an older system and it's a small tank and you have a large family, you may be pumping once a year, every other year, whatever the case may be. And if you have an advanced treatment system, it's also important to note that they require a specific frequency, and those units typically require a service provider to come out and service the unit once or twice a year, and they will determine whether or not at that time that pumping is necessary. So again, if you have an advanced treatment unit, contact your service provider. They'll be able to tell you how often it needs to be pumped. But this is very important to prolong the life of your system. So some key steps is conserve water. If you have leaks, particularly a leaking toilet, that's adding a lot of water to your system. And your septic system is designed for a certain amount of water per day. And so if you have leaks, that's potentially adding more water than your drain field can accommodate. And that may mean things drain slowly, or you're getting ponding, or again, worse yet, you're actually getting back up into your house. Garbage disposals don't work well with septic systems. And the reason for that is it grinds up organics, and those don't settle out quite as well. And then any sort of fats, oils, and grease, do not drain that down the sink, because that is adding not only organics, but if your tank is not working properly and it's not separating those fats out, you don't want oils and grease going into your drain field, because it clogs the soil pores and water cannot infiltrate into the soil. Do not dispose of any unwanted or unused chemicals down the drain. It's perfectly fine to use a normal amount of bleach or other cleaners in your, whether it's your laundry or in your kitchen use. But excessive drainage of chemicals can kill off the bacteria in your system and cause your system to not work as well, or maybe even reduce the life expectancy of your drain field. This is another really important maintenance tip on septic systems. Only flush toilet paper. There's many products such as wipes that say they're flushable, and they will flush, but they will likely cause clogging because they do not break down in the septic tank. And over time, if somehow one of those wipes is transported out in the drain field, it could clog the pipe. And particularly if you have an advanced treatment unit, wipes are lethal, if you will, to the process. They clog the filters, or worse yet, get trapped up into the pumps and cause a lot of damage. Another important tip is to be sure that if you have any storm water, divert that away from your septic tank and drain field. Again, you don't want excessive water standing on your drain field, because again, that's saturating the soil and then wastewater cannot infiltrate. So again, channel that away, whether you're using downspouts, be sure that they're not going towards your septic tank and drain field. Don't drive on the drain field, because if you do so, you're compacting the soil. And remember that septic system, that drain field needs oxygen to breathe. And so when you compact soil, not only water, but air can no longer enter that, and you can get damaged. And then driving can actually crush some of the drain field pipes. Trees, most tree species and drain fields don't mix, particularly if it's a conventional system where the roots are going to try to find the water and they like the nutrients of the septic system, and those roots can actually clog the pipes of your drain field. So we generally recommend keeping trees at the bare minimum 25 feet away from your tank or your drain field. But you can use different types of vegetation. Turf grass is great, but you can put shallow rooted flowering plants over your drain field if you wanted to. Again, plants help take up water and nutrients, but you don't want plants that put down roots that can get into your system. We talked about pumping and how critical that is to maintain your system. And then again, if you have an advanced treatment unit or BAT unit, be sure that you're maintaining those service contracts on an annual basis, because those service providers can help keep your system in good working order. EPA has a great website on septic systems, and they have a program called Septic Smart, which provides some really good information, reminders on what you should be doing to help maintain your system, to help maintain groundwater quality. So with that, I'll end with this. There's a wealth of information on EPA. State agencies typically will have a unit that focuses on septic systems, and certainly your local health department is a wealth of information. In many cases, it's the health department or public works office that permit septic systems, and they have a lot of information on their site.